Well, I was busy and I had a lot of things to do, so I had a lot of time to think about things, and I came up with something that relates to the "Does God exist?" question. And for this one, went with another definition of existence. Well, there is the objective definition of existence that whether or not you know about something, it still exists and you can discover and blah blah blah. So that is the objective part of existence. But what about the subjective part, where I mean, this is really associated with the question of the ancients that if a tree falls in the middle of a forest, does it make any sound if no one is there to hear it? Uh, the sub-definition of existence, at least for me, is that if something in no way affects you, has any effect on you, then it doesn't exist for you. So I raised the question that I started with the first I wrote up, does God exist? And the answers can be two. If God, any God, well, even I started actually with that the questioning, but I went even back a step further. Sorry, I look in my notes. Oh yes. My first question was that whether or not any God exists. If no gods exist, then who cares in gods? If one or more God exist, then let's move further on this decision tree. The next question is whether there are a lot of gods or just one. If there are a lot of gods, whatever you do, you will do at least one's will. So you will have your support, you will end up in heaven or whatever concept you want with go. So who cares then if there are multiply gods? So the question remains only whether we should care for God's existence or not if there is only one God. If there is only one God, the question is, does it expect something from us? If he don't expect something from us, then who cares? So we can go without God. If he expects something, then we should go that is there a consequence of that expectation, either positive or negative or both. If there is no consequence or neutral consequence for for fulfilling God, the expectation of God from us, then who cares? If there is a positive or negative or both thing like punishment or whatever gift it can afford for you, there is the care maybe for God, but do we? So this positive negative thing here only comes in question if there is a base, certain evident things that determine whether you will be gifted or you will be punished or cursed or whatever you want to name it. If there is no base, it just happens randomly, then who cares? we shouldn't care for God. If there is, then another question arises, that whether or not uh, we know about the decision system. Do we know what we should do to get the positive handling and or to avoid the negative consequences? If you cannot know that, then who cares in God? If we can know, then let's move a step further. Here comes something that can be proven actually in the real world. We can agree that some people have no idea about what a God wants or not wants from him or her. So we can agree that there is two possibilities. If after all these decisions we accepted as true or something, that God, that one God told us what to do, and even if I don't know consciously what he wants from us, I still know and do what he wants, or don't do what he wants me to not do, or he didn't say anything. If he didn't say anything, that, as we saw in the previous step of the decision tree, we shouldn't care for God. If we do whether or not we know anything consciously about God, what he expects from us, then, well, face it, who cares whether a God there is or not? We already do what he wants, and we don't do what he wants us not to do. So who cares in the whole fucking God question? Just think upon a moment.